Next, we've got on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Any additions, changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Did I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Let's see. Usually have the pledge. Are we out of order a little bit?
Wasn't in our notes that
It's not in there.
Yeah,
Oh, it is.
Okay,
It's-
let's,
Let's do
I'm
the
gonna,
pledge
I'm gonna
first.
switch up. Let's all stand and repeat the
I
pledge.
think it's because we were closed session to the end and I didn't get it around.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
right? And now I'll go back to comments and dates from the superintendent.
Well, I think as you all know, we're in the midst of summer school, lots of great things going on. In fact, today is summer school testing. So that's where many of our school leaders are at this point in time. And so we are excited for those opportunities for students to learn. We've been feeding kids this summer and really making sure that our kids have fun activities as well as learning activities over these next couple of weeks. Next week, I think everybody's pretty much, new students are on campus next week. And then we do have a couple of different summer camps that happen throughout the month of July. But one of the things that you all approved was the Mountains to the Coast. And those kids are on that excursion right now and so joyful and excited. And I don't know that I've ever seen teachers so excited over that opportunity for kids. So just some really different stories of who's attending, and some of them, this will be their first time leaving the mountains and going to the coast. And so I'm really excited for them to have that opportunity. We have lots of different things that are going on over the next month. And one of those includes, and I'll just include this in now because the new middle school updates are next on July 17th. Our architects will be zooming in so we can have a meeting on that day at, they're available starting at 3:30. So that way you all can see the latest plans. You know, that as far as what's being submitted, I think you guys have seen some of the, you know, bigger plans, but this will help give you the detail of what's in the actual building itself. And, you know, any questions that you have, hopefully they'll be able to answer them for you at that time. Many of the things, you made decisions all along. So back in September, you got to see some of the colors and designs in the building, but some things have changed, different sizes and scope, not scope, but how things fit together. So this will give you a chance to see the flow and to be able to see it all put together because they've been coming in pieces. So hopefully this will give you an opportunity to see everything as it is at this point in time. So that will be on July 17th, 3:30. That's about it. And we have lots of exciting things going on, especially in our summer camps. And hopefully we'll have some pictures to share in the next newsletter that comes out of our kids learning this summer. Oh, and then we will need to set a date for our groundbreaking for the new middle school. So preferably the week before school starts, I think would be the best time for that to happen. So if you want to look at your dates, I'm thinking that Friday would be a great day. to do it, but I want to see if any of those dates are not conducive to the law. So that would be
16.
the 16th of August.
Did we not have that set for the 12th before?
It's the week of the 12th. They said we could do it the week of the 12th. So no, we had not set that.
And that works for me because I'll be in Wyoming until the 14th.
And this is, the teachers are back, students are not. The 19th is the first day of school.
Do you have a time frame?
No, I don't have a time frame. I just wanted to make sure that before that happened, that we had a date that was going to work for everybody.
I'm not showing anything
Their
on the
preference,
16th.
anybody?
Morning so that it's not quite so hot.
That might be a great idea, especially since we've had our summer heat early this year.
August can be bad,
And August can be
really
a
bad.
little muggy. And not as early as the last one, I don't think. I think we can get more people here if it's not right at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. 10. Yeah, 10's fine.
10 sounds good.
10 o'clock.
That work for
That's
everybody?
for lazy people.
Well, and people coming from out of town, that helps them.
That's funny.
Does that work?
Our teams have been busy. I know we've got meetings all along, Amy and technology and Anthony and the school teams, even looking things as simple as door locks and how that works in the flow of the school. There are lots of decisions that they're in the process of making and making sure that we take care of. So we're excited for that.
I'd like to have a discussion about the staircase at some point, because before it goes to, before it's finalized. I'm not happy with the new staircase,
The middle school?
the middle school. Yeah, we're
Okay.
still talking about middle school, are we not?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
they can do that 17th.
Yeah, on the 17th.
Is
mean,
that
they're in
not
the
too late since
process.
it goes to the state the next week?
I guess we can, what would you prefer with the staircase?
What we had originally, because that's what we presented, and to be honest, that staircase looks really small in that big space. And I know that a librarian wanted some room at the top of the steps, but it does not fit the space. It looks really fragile too. I'm worried about how many students might be on that staircase at a time. It needs to be bigger, like we had planned earlier.
So I think part of that was designed so that you have space in the media center itself and visibility. And so, but we can, yeah, I don't have the actual and won't have them until probably the 17th, what the latest drawings look like. I just have what I've been sending you all along. And I know that they've been tweaking that because of lines of sight in the
So
media
that-
center and the
Why was
The
it
school team.
changed?
what's that?
Why was it changed?
Well, a couple of reasons. One of them, they had a big, in order to hold it, you had a big pole in the middle of the media center and it changed some of the lines of sight. And then you had so that you can see around, I mean, visibility in spaces,
You're talking
you know,
about the library and the media center.
in the media center through the hallway. And then when it came to the learning stair, you had places where kids would be sitting and places where kids would be coming down, and that was not separated. And so the thought from the middle school team was that they actually like it better because it is separated, so that you have a clear path for students to walk and a clear path for students to sit in that space. So it shaped it differently. Instead of it all coming down one direction, now it shapes into the middle school so that they can have, I guess, multi-use versus just singular use coming down. So.
They saw, if I might,
Sure.
add, some of the English teachers, Ms. Holloman, could see it as more of a stage for doing, literature circles and things like that, perhaps little plays. It was just more conducive for that as well.
I'm really concerned about the safety. It looks very narrow, and especially in the mornings when all the kids are coming in.
You're talking about the regular stairs?
Yes, I feel like that might be a safety issue. It's narrow, and I know how middle school kids move. They move by pushing, shoving, and whatever else that they can do. And it looks very narrow compared to the space. It does not fit that space. I don't think it will be adequate for the students to come up and down that staircase, especially in times of high traffic.
So I think that, I don't know that that is a scale drawing. They did those, I don't think that's a scale drawing from as far as the width of the actual
But that's what we
stairs
have to-
themselves. Yeah.
But the pictures that they sent, all of the pictures look that way. So why wouldn't it be scaled?
But
I don't know.
When I looked at the scale, it looked like 3 people could be abreast compared to the figure they put in there. But I think those dimensions can be seen on the blueprint so that we can
They
get a good
are.
idea of how wide it is. But I thought I saw a safety hazard in that right area that was multiple steps in one so that they created seating. There was no safety railing in between, and it looked to me like student could easily push somebody off where there was no step for them to go to. So that was a safety hazard I saw in the original plan.
So maybe we could combine the two where it.
We need to talk about it, when we've got the blueprints in front of us.
Could you let them know that that's just a point of discussion so that in case there's changes, we won't be put behind on our schedules?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I can give some measurements of one versus the other and just,
Absolutely.
okay.
I can probably get you measurements by tomorrow.
Well, let's just keep on the new middle school. It's next, so. Got anything to add to?
No,
the
that's
report
it,
there?
because we will be having the discussion on the 17th. If you click on the information, pre-bid was held on June 20th. The actual sealed bids will be accepted and will be on July 11th in here. And so they'll know what GMP number 1 is, which is specific to erosion control. So a lot of moving dirt that's going on for this first GMP, but that is July 11th. So.
Any other questions? Next, we'll go into public comment for this meeting. So in accordance with policy 2310, the board chairperson will recognize speakers in order in which they are signed in. Each speaker will receive 3 minutes to present the comments. However, the public comment session will not extend 30 minutes total, except by a majority vote of the board. If a speaker is unable to present all of his or her information in the specified time limit, the speaker may provide the board with additional information in written form. Please refrain from addressing specific employee or student concerns as a part of public comment. Concerns can be directed to district leadership in policy 2310. Board members will not respond to individuals who address the board except to request clarification of points made by the presenter. The board chairperson has the authority to speak on behalf of the board and refer concerns to administration. Except in cases of emergency, information received during presentations will not be acted upon at the time of it is received. So for public comment this morning, I'm having a hard time with saying this morning. So if I say this evening, just overlook me. On their public comment, we've got Mr. Adam Elliott.
Good morning. I would like to expand on my objections of the proposed private service providers policy discussed during the last board meeting. Posted in all schools is a copy of the Ashe County Schools Strategic Plan. In this plan, a few statements have recently drawn my attention when thinking upon and researching this proposed policy. The mission statement states Ashe County Schools will work collaboratively to improve the lives and provide all students with a safe, equitable, and enriching learning experience every day without exception. Is collaborative efforts made if outside providers are prohibited in schools, in particular ABA therapy? Have all teachers that ABA has been in their classrooms been asked about the effectiveness of ABA inside a classroom? Would children with needs such as my daughter have enriched learning every day? Core values. We are all in for kids and believe all students should be valued, supported, and treated equitably. I have no doubt in my mind that my daughter is valued by the school system. I do, however, question that if a policy that targets one particular outside resource greatly supports and enables my daughter to achieve her best academic, emotional, and behavioral success during her school day, limits or prohibits this resource, how is this statement true? I know of other MOUs with outside providers who provide services to students, so is this equitable? Again, within core values, we are all in it for kids and believe that strong relationships with our students and growing partnerships with their families and communities creates an accepting, caring, learning environment. I question, is that as long as parental views are in line with or conform with the school systems? Not what medical experts know through extensive research and practice numerous times daily, and parents have witnessed great successes within their children. Personalization. By June of 2024, all students will have individualized plans for success that focuses on the whole child and continually evolves with students' interests and experiences. It is June 26, 2024. There is not a current detailed plan of action or trained staff to implement such a plan to assist students with behaviors due to their autism that to enhance learning within the classroom that is close to being as equitable, individualized, or intensely focused as ABA therapy has been within the last 3 years. I asked for an immediate renewal of last year's MOU with BCPS to continue ABA services within Ashe County schools, so all children will have a comprehensive, individualized, whole child plan for success. In my wife's letter to each of you, each member of the board, she used the analogy of digging a ditch to combat autism based on the knowledge of autism. We began to dig our ditch with a spoon. I truly believe that with a sincere collaborative efforts focused on each individual child between parents, ABA staff, and the entire school system, administrators to teachers' assistants, we could create an excavator to dig the same ditch at an astonishing rate. I feel like a meeting with all parties concerning this matter would be a great start to building the excavator. I would ask, and I also volunteer as a parent of a child who is profoundly impacted by this situation, to be a part of any discussions, trainings, and hopefully a solution to the current situation in which we find ourselves. Let us not only meet the needs of these students, let us exceed their needs. And to be an example to the state of North Carolina, to the districts well beyond, on how collaborative efforts by all parties makes for the best, the most positive, and an awesome learning environment for the children with autism possible within our classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Elliott. I don't think we have any other public comment for this meeting not showing up.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
Clarification or a request? Can we get a copy of what you just read? Can you give that to administration to give to the board?
Ken, would you like it? I have it edited, just marked out with pen. I can.
Yeah, or you
can make copies of this, right?
I just had that request and thought I'd ask on behalf of the board if that would be, okay. All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Let me sign it. I just not sign.
If you want to, that's fine. That'll help than writing notes. We'll head on into action items while they're doing that. First, under action, we've got the personnel. Have those in your packet there. Any questions or comments there? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the personnel agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve the personnel agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments?
I'd like to ask a question. Do we still have people applying for jobs?
We do. We'll have a personnel to bring on the 17th as well. We have several positions out there that we'll be finalizing by then. A couple of teachers, a couple of TAs, some custodians, hopefully some custodians.
That's it.
I did notice that there was one that had not been pre-approved. Mr. Brady, I think he has been at the high school, but that position has changed. Could you talk about that for a moment?
Sure. Because he was ESSER funded, we, like all the other ESSER funded people, we moved them in directions in which there was a need. And Mr. Farmer had suggested that because the social studies numbers were so high, additionally, there was an AP class that was not being able to be offered due to numbers and people having to teach core kinds of things. This is going to allow for that.
Good.
Any other questions? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Next, we've got the consent agenda for this meeting. There are several MOUs, early literacy specialist MOU, the minutes from the last meetings, new teacher support program, volleyball camp, cheerleading camp. We do have a board meeting date change, the amended summer program plan, and permission to apply for Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina Foundation funding under that. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions on any of that? Comments?
I just know that the Blue Cross Blue Shield grant has been just recently released, and there is a very tight deadline for that. So I think Jamie is behind that one, and I appreciate her being willing to do that because it will provide extra funds for our mental and behavioral health for us to use for our students. If approved. I hear it's pretty complicated.
It's a big grant. I mean, significant amounts of money. So it's up to $500,000 per year for up to 3 years. And it is a very short deadline.
And I also appreciate the collaboration between the mental health initiative and the hospital and all those people involved, because that's what is needed in our county is more collaboration for these services. That way we can get more done.
Anybody have anything else? Questions, comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. They can get on it. All right. Next, we've got the interim budget resolution. So see, it's cold iron coming up. We don't have a state budget yet.
We don't have a state budget yet. I think one time in my almost 23-year career, we've had a state budget on July 1st. And I don't expect this week that anything is going to pass. We are required by law, though, to have an interim budget resolution that will allow us to continue to pay regular expenses and salaries. And that is the document that was provided to you.
Do I have a motion to approve the interim budget resolution?
I move we approve the budget resolution.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions, comments?
Where are we on the budget request that we sent to the commissioners? Because I think we were supposed to approve those individually, correct?
Correct. We need to schedule a budget work session. I know July is getting super tight. Because we have our budget from the county now. They're going to do a 4% increase in current expense and no additional projects on capital outlay. So we'll need to make some decisions of how we want to handle that. Dr. Cox and I sat down, as we've been working on these budget amendments and looked at what we could do out of the 23-24 funding. And I think you all received an email of some things that we felt like we could go ahead and cover out of this year funding. We've had a massive amount of vacancies. You know that when you see the personnel agenda, custodians have been a revolving door, with two school administrators leaving a school. They were both high-paid administrators, and then with the intern positions back in, they were less. So we had some savings there. And I think that.
That was
the whole goal that we have an intern AP at Westwood all year long, and we don't have to, if we do those intern retired people, we don't have to pay retirement on them, which is 25% of the salary. So that saves us quite a bit of money when we fill those vacancies with those intern retired people.
But she will receive full benefits now in the school year, correct?
But we also have hired young APs.
Yeah.
So the ones that we are paying at dollar allotments instead of payments, because we don't get enough payments to pay our APs, we'll see a little bit of savings. I'm just waiting on the state to decide if it's going to be a 3% raise, 4% raise, whatever. It's hard. We could go ahead and budget at 4%, even though we know the biennium says 3% if we want to move forward with working on this. I'm fine with that. I think I did 4% when I submitted.
What I've read, that may not happen if the House has anything to do with that, or the Senate.
The Senate, yes.
The Senate has anything to do with that. The House is already passed, but if the Senate has anything to do that, I'll be a little bit afraid to go forward until they have decided.
That would be my gut too, Diane, to just hold off, and we'll have to make some decisions pretty soon. Just because, I have to, by law, have the budget resolution to y'all by October. And it takes a little time to get that all put together. I can plug everything we know as far as fixed expenses like utilities and things, wait to plug the salary cost later. But it really doesn't keep you off the picture.
And even though this is the biennium, we know what the minimum should be.
And it says the intent of the General Assembly is to pay 3%. It doesn't say you shall pay, correct, 3%. We'll see some documents like NCAA has already put something out saying it will be 3%. Well, no, the law says the intent, it's not you shall. So we hear a you shall, I would be afraid to even get anything out in the public. Okay.
So you think you may have a budget this session, or?
I think they want to go home and politic.
It's an election year.
Election year.
Yeah, if they want, if they leave and go home, then the 3% will be wrong. So the next thing I think is budget amendment.
Got to vote on that one. Yeah, all those in favor of the interim budget resolution, raise your hand. Now, sorry, go ahead.
The next thing is our budget amendments. It's been a good year, Bob. I'm pleased with how the year has come out. That kudos to my own, they are so hardworking. If you come in the office, you'll see them, they are at their desk with their heads down, getting it done. And I'm very proud of them. And I will say I have an instinct by anybody over there. The state, we did not need to make any budget amendments on that. On current expense, it's small amendments. It's $2,000 for ancillary services, which is expenses related to child nutrition. And it has to do with what we did, a little bit of increase for the certified supplement. And then the $8,000 is non-program charges. Charter schools ended up being just a little bit over what we had projected. We have about 31 kids total in charter schools, 29 at Two Rivers, a couple on the virtual, in some virtual school. And then it fluctuates. We have some kids that end up at the Marjorie Williams Academy depending on foster care situation.
I understand there's at least 2 new schools that may develop in Ashe County. Do we need to plan for contributions to those or not?
Only if they become charter schools, and Julie will have to notify them during the Title I process. Even if they're not charter schools, we have to notify private schools that they are entitled to funding if they so choose. What we found is most of them do not want anything to do with public school and public school regulations, and they would still have to follow the Title I guidelines.
If they take our money?
And we have been advised not to do stuff that they would like to see us put people in the private schools, tutors, literacy people to help the charter schools or the private schools.
So that's at our discretion. I didn't know.
It's not at our discretion, it's advised.
Okay.
Now, we would need to get clarification from DPI, how they would want us to move forward if they declined personnel. Most private schools do not want our people on site. Unfortunately. I mean, I believe in parent choice. I do. Not every kid is a public school kid. That does to make public school so that every kid wants to go to public school.
So you're saying a private school will not have to follow the same rules that we do? Of course, charter schools are supposed to.
No, they don't have to.
Stores.
I would love to get 29 that's at 2 Rivers back. It's a classroom. It's a teaching position.
Yeah.
And
Do I have a motion to approve? Oh, you got one more? All right.
federal, which is not the effective amendments. The big amendments come in capital outlay, and these are good amendments. These are, they're just a little bit in the instructional and sporting services, but the large chunk is our capital outlay for the turf field. We received the 2.5 million that we did not know about when we set the budget. And then the auditor feels like we are now at the point in our construction process with the middle school that we can start looking construction in progress. So that's exciting. You know, I'm excited about that. So that's the bulk of our amendments. County Christian did not need any, and they did not need any.
Amanda, I have another question about how that will work. Is it my understanding, and please correct me, I'm trying to get this in my head. The bills will come to the county.
The bills will come to us. Dr. Allison and Dr. Cox sign off on those bills. And then we submit them on to the county for payment. The money will go to the county.
So the grant money that we have been awarded will go to the county to be spent on this project.
Yes, so it's much like our public school building repair and renovation funds.
Mhm.
That money goes to the county. We do not receive that in our bank account. The turf and field was a unusual grant because it came, what they call a direct grant from the Office of State Budget Management. And so that's the only reason we got that money up front. It's not technically a public school grant.
And we received a notice that maybe $20,000 more is needed for why was that not in the contract?
Dr. Cox and I have had that conversation.
I mean, we went through a lot of that with the middle school they did the borings early on so that we would know what we were up against and all that stuff. Is it not in the contract?
So, the soils were not in our contract. The soil stability, it's a hit or miss of whether or not it's in there. Some school districts carried $100,000 in contingency. This project did not carry any contingency, and that's why there's a $20,000 roughly extra cost for stabilization of the soil. So literally they had to do a grid to be able to make it even so that they could put that rock base down on it. Without that, it wouldn't extend the life of it, and it really depends on the project. If you were to do borings and stuff for the new middle school, that's quite costly. So it would have increased our price anyway. So they had to do a soil stabilization test, and I sent you that explanation of how they have to roll it, to see, and Anthony was there, to understand what that really looks like. And, it could have been a lot worse from what I understand. They were not expecting it in that particular soil because it looks pretty even. It looks pretty even whenever you just glance at it, but that would have been additional cost. So.
But I'm a little frustrated that that was not included in the original contract because we should not have, are there more extra costs that we might have that have not been included in the contract?
So when I talked to them and Fred, because Fred was the one who helped us with that contract, there shouldn't be. I don't foresee anything additional. The soil ended up being the thing that increased the price, and there was no way around it because Fred and myself and met with Geoservices. I think Anthony was a part of that discussion. That this was unavoidable. And again, we did not have a contingency in that budget. So.
Fred works with other school districts,
He
Wilkes
does.
being one of them, and they've got
Correct. They
money for 3 fields for their 3 high schools. Did they run into the same problems?
I
in
don't know
Wilkes?
if Wilkes did, but there were several that were ended up being $100,000 more, but they carried a contingency because there were so many projects, us having one, there wasn't a project contingency in that budget. So, that's where the additional 20,000 came into play.
Unexpected things happen. Unexpected things come up when you're doing a big
But I
project.
mean, soil testing seems to be primary to me. I guess it's because of the process we went through at the middle school. That was one of the first things Allison wanted done was the boring, so we know what we were up against when it came to
I
the
think,
contract for getting the land ready.
I think the difference there is we're putting a building on that land. I think that's the difference.
And borings weren't necessary in this particular area. It was a roll test to put it down.
Would you explain that to me, Anthony?
Yeah, so the proof roll, as they call it, they literally load a tandem truck and they drive it around. And this is after they have cut off the field. The field originally had about an 18 to 20-inch crown. So all that had to be cut off, taken away. And then they proof roll to make sure that they can put the stone on the field and prep it for the turf.
Okay, you're speaking to somebody that knows nothing about this. So
Yeah.
when you mean turf roll, I mean,
They literally drive the truck, loaded truck on the field, and they drive it around. And there's a thing called pumping. That's the literal term for it. So as the truck goes, what you should see in an ideal situation is just some tire prints. But what you're seeing here is the soil moving out beside the truck.
okay,
Pumping up and down.
placing the soil.
So
Okay.
once they find that, then it has to be fixed. There's just no,
It has to be rolled. Is that how they fix it, roll it?
no, they put this special grid material on it, and then they spread the rock, and it locks into the grid, and it stops the movement and stabilizes it. And they did like half the field, I'm gonna say, to be sure, but one side was great, the other side was not great.
So the grid is actual material that they put down to stabilize the rock?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
And it wasn't until they took that top layer off, so that they could find that this was an issue.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't have a contingency in the budget.
It's a discovery when it happened.
Which side was worse, the home side or the away side?
or the,
It was actually an end.
Oh, it's in, okay.
The other way.
I'm just
Yeah.
curious.
Further.
It's just in pretty bad shape anyway, if I didn't know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
will the crown be put back?
pardon?
Most football fields have,
Oh,
but we don't need that because of the interior drainage. Is that correct?
right.
Okay, that
There'll be a
would be
little
filled in.
bit of crown, but it'll be it won't be
nothing like it
noticeable.
was.
Make it wonderful for soccer.
Yeah.
It's starting soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ann.
Any
I
other?
think we need to celebrate where we've come with nutrition. I mean, child nutrition, a few years ago, that was my greatest worry. And Tammy's, you've done a great job, all of you guys, so.
We are not, we've not finished booking all the entries for child nutrition. I do think we'll use some fund balance. We have been converting for over a year to a new software in North Carolina. It's called Titan. It has some issues and we are working through those. But I would like to wait to update you when the auditors come and make all their entries. So I can tell you exactly how much fund balance. CEP has been successful. I'm going to say that. And I will go on record saying CEP has been successful. What is killing us now is food costs. Food costs are awful. We did a side by side, and I did a few weeks ago of 22, 23, 23, 24. And as of right now, food cost is up 42%. And that is nationally, that's 42%
In 2 years.
So labor is actually less than it was last year, even with the raise that child nutrition received last year. So she's done a phenomenal job at keeping her labor costs down. It is supplies and food. It is killing us. So our next step, we're gonna look at that and see how we can save some money on food costs. You know, we never wanna serve foods that children don't wanna eat. And when you get into serving a whole lot of the prepackaged stuff that may be more cost effective, it's just not as good for kids as what they're doing things from recipes.
We tried that with Michelle Obama. It did not work very well.
No, and you know, there's even some strict guidelines that have come down from the USDA on nutrition standards that makes it tough for the ladies to do what they need to do. You know, my favorite meal growing up was the homemade vegetable soup and the grilled cheese and a big old cup of chocolate milk. That was my favorite growing up. We had good old fashioned old timey cooks where I went to school, and I miss those days. I wish children are not, and Adam can probably attest this, children are not getting overweight eating child nutrition meals. They are getting overweight because we're eating too much fast food and we're not moving enough. We're at home on devices from the time they get home to the time they go to sleep. I don't know how we can combat that when that's an at-home issue, but it is not child nutrition that's making children. I mean, my kid ate 2 lunches a day and he's still just skinny as a rail. He, fortunately for him, is a lot taller than me and his daddy. Always advocate for those ladies and what's right for them. And I really wish we could go back to cooking real good food.
I remember the rolls, the homemade rolls every day.
That was my favorite.
One of the things that in my area that is being revealed is that the research is building up, proving that ultra processed food actually increases the risk of depression by 3 times. And that the plastics that are being used everywhere are actually putting nanoparticles of plastic inside our cells, causing increased anxiety, increased depression. And we need to do a better job educating from day one they come in about eating healthy food. And
When they come to practice, they're hungry, aren't they?
Oh, that's all got plastic in it.
Yeah, these are big boys. They need a lot of calories and they're working out hard. They're starting at like 6 o'clock in the morning lifting and going all day long.
The big problem that I have seen over the years is as the athletic trainer is, especially the guys that have first lunch. First lunch starts whenever second period starts now. So that would be right a little after 10 o'clock. And, you know, those guys, they're athletic, we're working on getting them stronger so they're more muscle mass, but, they're hungry. And, and I equate it to, you have to have gas in your vehicle or diesel fuel, whatever it is, you have to fuel your body. And by 3:30, practice starts at 4, they have no fuel. And that leads to injury, that leads to other issues, dehydration. It leads to a lot of issues.
My own kid, 3 shot put in disc, and he was early lunch. he had a day where he's like me, he's not an athlete, but he wanted to do something, so he done track. But he was so disappointed in his performance, and he said, but I was starved to death. So we started packing his snacks in his backpack when he would go to track meets.
When I taught seventh grade, we were the first group to go to lunch. It was at 10:30. By 2 o'clock, they were eating the desk. I had to keep them
I know how you
gnawing.
fix that. We have two kids at the high school class go through the line. You can't send them all at the same time.
Just
So I don't know how you
snacks.
fix that. Schedules are big. Schedules are a big issue, trying to get everything in. Anyway, we got some tractors.
Mhm.
We know all y'all for sure.
No, it's good stuff. Any other questions, comments? Entertain a motion to approve the budget amendments.
I move we approve the budget amendments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
I need an interpreter for all this financial stuff and I appreciate you.
I would love to have a training. I know it would be boring, dry stuff. I would love to have a training, half-day training with the board and probably, you principals and assistant principals as well. We've got so many, budget information and how to read the reports and how the chart of accounts works.
So when's the chart of accounts going to change?
It goes to be a 36-digit code.
Instead of a 9-digit?
Yeah.
Lord.
So, we're excited about that.
I'm like, I have my brain wrapped around 9 digits. I knew how to read 9 digits.
I was here
budget
for the
codes,
first
but
part of the change, and that was a struggle. This one's
36.
Oof, rough.
But we're gonna have a lot more detail available than we did before. So we will be able to drill down in, but that's a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift.
May I ask one more question? I noticed that we are having some issues that you address in an email. Are those, can we devise something for our schools where the school finance people do not have to go to those links that you described there? Is there some remedy for them as well to make this account safe?
We're working on that. We talked with Karen Cruz yesterday, who is the owner of the school software. And they have finally, after that, I've got to give kudos to Lake, and she's been on them about this for a year probably. Because we knew we needed to get these files secure. So yesterday they confirmed that they do have a file and it will not put more on the treasurers. It's going to actually put more on us, but each morning and evening we'll load a file and it will go to the bank. The bank will be able to match up checks that come through. And if something doesn't match, it'll kick back to us and we can go in and say, okay, was this a legitimate check or is this a fraudulent check? It has worked well on our big accounts here. We have it on our current expense. We have it on our child nutrition. We're getting ready to add it to our smaller accounts just because of the nature of fraud. And I was talking to Mr. Greer. I lost track of the days. Was it Monday? Tuesday. He said that, yeah, we don't know what they were. He was saying that he had talked to Ms. Welch at First Citizens and said that she is dealing with at least one fraud case every single day. It is scary times. Mr. Green, who is Mr. Wallace's kind of partner in crime, he said that he had went away from writing any checks himself personally, that he does everything direct draft or on some way just because of the fraud that's happening with these checks.
And I would be interested in that kind of training so I can better understand what's happening in our budget, how to read it.
There are decisions we can make and we need to make these decisions as a team. It's not my place to make decisions. It's my place to bring you all the information to make the decisions. And that's, it's the same with Dr. Cox. I bring her the information to make decisions. It's not my place to say yes or no to anything.
Unless we don't have money.
Unless we don't have money.
Then you're like, yeah, we don't have money.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, you sure you could, let's think this one through. But I hope, we've been able to do some things for the schools and I hope that they can see that we're trying to accommodate every request and to make life easier on them. It's just, we're in tough times.
Thanks so much.
Vote on it.
Yeah, did we vote on that?
Yes.
Yes, we did,
We did.
yeah, okay.
That was an after.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, you're good. Sorry. We're talking about days of the week. I got lost on there. Next, we've got policy 9115, pre-qualification of bidders for construction projects.
So this particular policy is required by statute to have and to do any kind of pre-qualification on construction bids. So this is something that the board needs to have in place for us to be able to do the work for the new middle school. The caveat is that the county is also in the same boat because they are the owner of the project, and so they too are ensuring that their policies are in line to allow the Benoist to do this. Their processes already follow federal law and already follow the processes outlined in general statute, but this is a formality to make sure we did not have this policy at all in place.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to suggest that we do as our policy says, that we review this for 30 days. I know there was an emergency before, but I think because the county has to issue this now, that we take our full time as per policy to talk about this and consider this policy before we adopt it.
And our policy does allow for you to do this on First Street. I did check with Fred.
I'm sorry.
On First Street. It does not have to sit for 30 days. This one can be done on First Street.
No, but I think that we have a policy about policies being sitting for 30 days. So,
What's the will of the board on
But
that?
do we need the policy in place for
When
other
do we-
things to progress?
Yeah, when does it need to be in place?
It should be in place before we, well, it should be in place right now for the pre-qualification of bids. And this just protects us in process to make sure that people who are working for us on this project are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
If I remember the deadline, we would have to make the choice of the bids prior to the 30 days being up.
Correct.
So I don't think we can afford to do that. I think we need to make a decision on it now. And how much flexibility do we have on this legally? Is there flexibility legally?
This is the recommended policy and there is no flexibility to my knowledge.
okay, help me, I'm confused then, because I understood that we had to do what the county policy said, not our policy on this particular project, because they own the project until
Until it's paid off.
we'll lease it, and then until it's paid off. I'm not sure what the rush would be if we're not even deciding any of this stuff for construction reasons. It's the county policy that will be in place, not ours, correct?
So we were advised by Fred that we and the county needed to have policies in place. And because we did not have this policy, this came directly from the board's attorney, Fred Thompson.
But I guess it's the date that we need to have it that I'm concerned about. Because I really am concerned about passing policies that become our, if you will, loosely law, when we have not had the full time to consider these policies. Or other people have not had time to look at those policies. The 30 days. Now, in emergency situations, I get it. And if they were going to use our policy for the construction, definitely. But I don't see the rush here. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think they have to have it to move forward.
They have to, yeah, it would delay starting the
That's-
project.
That was not my understanding. Is that not? Do we have to have it to move forward?
So the county will be signing all of the documents, so it really gives the county the authority rather than in before, and this is in general statute, but we were advised by Fred that we should have this in policy in place before that July 11th bid date. So that's all I know. I mean, I can call Fred to see what you guys or to ask any additional questions if you'd like, or have somebody call Fred. And come back to it if you'd like.
Somebody else, Josh?
I mean, I'm
I don't think there are
fine.
any decisions around the policy that
If
the
it's
board
the
has
way
to
it
make,
is.
other than putting the policy in place. So there aren't any changes to this particular policy because it follows general statute. That's my understanding.
Following general statute and Fred evaluating it,
And this is directly the school board
Right.
association's policy.
I'm inclined to trust these people that have looked into it far more than I could understand.
Great.
I just don't want this to be a habit that we have of presenting policies and then passing them without the clear review that we have in our own policy about board policies. Is that too many policies?
Plenty of policies, plenty of
many
policies.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
When is the date? Refresh my memory on the date where the bids are gonna be being opened and read for selection.
July 11th.
That's, yeah, and that's far
That's the
less than
first
30
one.
days.
Yeah.
And if we don't select a contractor, then we delay things by 2 to 3 weeks at least.
Have we not already done that? Selected our, oh, you mean
So
subcontractors?
subcontractors, yeah, this is for the
Subcontractors.
connected,
Yeah.
CMA.
Contracts and our CMR is already in place.
yeah, but the others that have to be,
The
yeah,
subcontractors.
the subcontractors have to be approved.
I get
And
that.
their bids are gonna be open July 11th. So if we can't select one then,
It won't be us selecting. It will be the county
right,
and
but
Allison, correct?
Selecting the,
Subcontractors.
subcontractors.
well, that's gonna come because the lowest bid essentially is where that's gonna come into play. That's the contract itself with the Benoist as our CMAR and with the architect is no longer signed by the board. That's only signed by the county.
Does the county have policy like this in place?
They were putting this policy in place as well, and this way both of our policies align. So that both of these policies were aligned. We should have this policy in place to be able to make these kind of decisions for pre-qualification.
So their meeting's July 1st.
They're meeting July 1st.
Okay, 'cause that's the first Monday
Mhm.
on there.
Was that on the last agenda for them? There's one that's on this agenda, but I'm not sure which one it was.
I
There's
was
two
at that meeting
policies.
and I don't remember because there've been a lot of back and forth between myself and Adam and the attorneys over these policies to make sure that it's aligned and whose signature needs to be on what. That's why we've got a lease agreement coming up next, so that we can ensure that we can actually build the project, but until that's in place, we have to have policies in place. That's what I was told. I asked Amanda to call Fred just to clarify.
I have a question regarding the pre-qualification committee. All these contractors that are submitting bids have to go through a vetting process to make sure that their bids are gonna be ones that are reliable and their quality of work in the past has been
Correct. And that's
validated.
what the CMAR does. That's what the Benoist are doing for us. And again, we ensured that they sent their process to Fred to make sure that that was in place. But absent this policy just ensures that we're saying, yes, this is what we do. They already have those processes in place. And now the county's also putting the same policy in place so that we are all aligned with what should have already been in place long before.
Will
But we didn't
Allison,
find that.
will Allison be representing us during that process?
During,
The pre-bid process that's happening,
she was there on June 20th
and she'll be there
on the
on
meeting.
July the
She'll be
11th.
there on July 11th. Yeah, we'll have several people there.
Okay. Well, I'll make a
Yeah.
motion, we accept the policy then.
I second.
Any other questions or
I'm sorry,
comments?
Dr. Simmons, did you want to weigh in on this?
No,
Okay,
I didn't have anything, just.
all in favor? We'll just keep talking about it. Let's go on to the lease agreement then. While we're at it.
Oh,
One more. All right, so The lease agreement itself is similar to what we had drawn up in 2021, but this is a different property and obviously different time. But this draft lease agreement was shared with the county commissioners on June 17th. And you can see that there are still there were some edits on there. There may be a couple of minor tweaks to this particular lease agreement. But I don't foresee any substantive changes at all. But this is what needs to be signed so that we can actually start the construction, which will happen after that that bid process that happens. So we need to have this in place so that we can build on that piece of property and it becomes the school building it versus the county controlling all of it, I guess you could say, county control the money.
I think I was surprised by the terms possession and enjoyment. And I'm going, okay, I thought we were doing education, but I guess hopefully
Well,
our
hopefully they're
education is
enjoying it.
enjoying, yeah, for sure. But I did not realize that we needed to be lawyers before we became board members, because I had to look up a lot of stuff on that one.
Big words.
Big words, big.
We also included we also included the people advising on the terms of the loan. So that way, whenever we go to the LGC, that everything is tight. So we didn't want to have any holes to poke through prior to that happening. And so we don't want something in general statute dictating that we should have something in place or in writing that we don't, even though we have a great relationship with the county.
Do we know when that LGC is, do we know when the LGC is meeting is? Have they set that up yet?
So yes and no. So we have some tentative dates. I think we can start using the other funds. Let's see if I can find it on here. Right now, that final with the LGC will be February 4th, 2025. That is tentative. And that's in part because of when to sell bonds and when the county has their most recent tax audit available. And so, and then of course, you know, Christmas time, nobody just, people are off differently during that time. And we would have to have stuff about a month earlier than expected, then it's really going to come in order to use this year's taxes. So right now it's tentative for February 4th.
Any other questions, comments?
If we get closer to that date, we'll certainly make sure that you have that information.
It's mostly Sandy's.
Well,
Yeah.
it is.
The county.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the lease agreement.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we approve the lease agreement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Next, we've got the policy manual compliance review and agreement.
So this is to ensure we do have all those policies and in place. The School Boards Association will come in and do a review, just like you like. Here's where we are now with the current policy. They will do this red stripe changes so that you can see exactly what it is. And then they will tell us what changes are required by law and what changes should be made and why, and then what your choices are within each of those policies. And this will help us to get up to speed. It does require, you know, we've talked about this several times. I think we have probably well over 250 policies that are not up to date. And so it will be nice that they will come in with a plan. It's over 3 years, so it won't be all of them at once. It'll give you the opportunity to really read and understand which policies have to be done. And then it'll tell us which policies we have missing, like the 9115, and suggest, when's appropriate to add it, if it's appropriate to add it. So they will do the technical work behind the scenes, and then what we they will bring most of these policies. It'll sit for 30 days, just as Diane has shared, unless it is so if it's a new policy. If it's not a new policy, you can update it, but that's the process is really up to the board. It's outlined in that agreement.
I think
So.
my biggest concern about this is that these policies do not always reflect what's best for Ashe County, and it even mentions Wake County in this manual update. And I want us to make it clear that this will no way diminish our responsibility to review and alter any policies that we feel need to be changed specific to Ashe County and its needs. It's a little scary to know, Wake County is different than us by a big shot. And so is Charlotte Mecklenburg. And often these policies reflect their, the way they operate instead of the way we should operate. And I would hope that if we adopt this, that we would make sure that we are reviewing carefully that it is appropriate for Ashe County schools and not for Wake County.
So this will look at what is the law that has to be done, and it'll give us where the flexibility is. And yes, we will all be reviewing it, all of it within the departments as well. And they do suggest that our board attorney also review those policies. And then, of course, the board reviews the policies as well. But this will tell you exactly what has to be changed by law, and then what the board has flexibility in. Yeah. And that's where, they may suggest something, but if you have flexibility to do something else, that's within your purview as the board.
I
would suggest that.
I agree with Diane that that's a priority, but I also am thankful that we have someone else, the potential of someone else coming through and recognizing what we need to change. Because when I first was elected and went through read through all the policies, a lot of them hadn't been changed since 2004, and laws have changed a lot since then. So we do want to make sure we're legal.
Yeah.
And most of our operations, like we'll get other things from the state, and we're following those operational legal things. But if you go back to policy, we certainly don't want somebody to say, oh gosh, well, you should have been doing this, and it not be the case and it not be aligned. I mean, we have an obligation to follow the law, whether it's in policy or not, if it's the law. But we don't want that to be misaligned, and this will definitely help us in that process.
There was one statement in this policy manual that bothered me too, that we not undertake or create new policy or revise existing policies until we contact the state school board. So what would that timeline look like? Because just like we have some policies pending right now, that that would probably take away any kind of emergency kind of policy that we would need, or would it? I'm asking that statement concerned me, that we do not have that flexibility if we enter into this agreement with them.
So there is actually flexibility. That's to prevent them from doing double the work. And so they want to know if we have anything that's pending out there, that we have choice in what order we go through in this as well. That way they're not revising a policy. We've already done it, and then, or be in the process of it, and then have to go back and tell us that, we've done something wrong. This helps us to keep aligned. And so by communicating with them, we just updated X policy, and we would give them all of our policy manuals as updated as they are, so they have access to all of that. And then, if there's something that we need to do on an emergency, That's my responsibility to call them and say, we have to tackle this policy. We already have access to all of their recommended policies. In fact, that's the one that Fred already went to. So it should prevent that from happening as you described. It's more like a courtesy policy. Look, we have to tackle this for now.
No, and under item section B5, it just says that if we have new or modified policies that we need to adopt, we just simply need to send them a copy so that they're aware of what we're doing, which makes good sense.
Yeah, because section E and F are very important. You need to read carefully because they're taking no responsibility for any revisions that we make if they don't know about it. But the thing I like is they're going to make us compliant with all the federal, state, and local laws. So that's why we need to do it.
Well, I know,
Like you said, if we change it, they need to know about it. They're not responsible for changing it. We don't tell them.
And over a 3-year period, this $29,000 is for a 3-year period. That's a real reasonable price to have the labor that's involved in having everybody cross-check everything for us.
And it's boring labor.
Yeah.
Well, we've tried it before.
It is.
you know, and
It
we,
got so tedious for everybody and took them away from other things.
I think this will.
That was my biggest concern. It took them away from their job that they need to do.
Man.
working
That's a
with.
lot, it's a lot of man hours.
Yeah,
And then we were consulting attorneys to
Right.
to fix this because some of them, have been 10, 15 years in between when it was revised and what the current policy is.
and I'm thinking if they're having it done by sections, that we may need to have separate policy review meetings because they seem to be very large. As a matter of fact, one of them, I think it was, or two of them, they were going to divide them. They were so large into two separate things. So we may need to allow for extra time to review all those policies sufficiently and make sure that we know what they're saying.
Well, the good thing is that we can do a special called session. If you just want to dig in and do just policy, then you guys can dig in and do just policy. I know some of my people are cringing.
Myself as well.
But, well, because it is a heavy lift, but I think that'll give you an opportunity to really focus and then you can approve it. I mean, once you guys have the policy where you want it, you can actually approve some of these in consent agenda. So it's not like the second time takes a whole lot to do. So, I mean, there's a process that you can do.
And just knowing what we can and can't change, that's gonna cut down on the time.
Yes.
Mhm.
After the 3 years, I guess, what do we continue with this process again, or do we just?
The law
Because
changed.
the law changes, if you listen to some legislatures, it's gonna change daily.
We receive from the state board those policy changes that need to be implemented as they happen.
Not need to do another review for a while.
So
Complete review.
So what will happen, no, we won't have to do a complete review because what will happen is that our policies will be up to date and they will send us regularly those policies that just need a technical correction or a correction via law, because a law has changed. And once those are in place, what you do is you put so many, the ones that come up for that quarter, you put them on for the month, you put them in consent agenda, you guys get it in beforehand, and these are the technical corrections, because you've already made the big decisions.
Is it acceptable for me to move that we accept this agreement and have it signed and sent in?
That's the motion. Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, raise your hand. All right. More work to do. Next, anything under updates, discussions? I don't see anything under there. Next, I'll ask for a motion to go into closed session.
I make a motion, we go into closed session.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion if we can have a break.
That's what I plan to do right now. All in favor? Raise your hand. Motion carried. So we'll have a break for 5 to 10 minutes, something like that.